Hello everyone, it's Mr. Boomer here, and welcome to episode 5 of my Road to Legend Rank series for Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Now, firstly, I do want to mention that I am going to be making some changes towards this series because I've noticed in the past 4 episodes straight, I've only been playing as Sonic. And since I don't want to bore you guys with this series already by picking the same exact character in almost every single episode and not picking any different characters, for this episode, I decided to play as the Werehog and later on, as you'll see, Tails. And I mainly decided to play as the Werehog because recently I haven't really been seeing a lot of people pick this character anymore. Like, have you guys been noticing that too? I remember when this game first came out, I've been seeing back-to-back Werehogs in almost every single race that I partake in. Like, a lot of people were picking the character, but it seems now that almost barely anyone actually picks the Werehog aside this game. And I don't feel like a lot of people don't play the Werehog anymore is because he's bad or anything of the sort. I feel like it's mainly because of the fact that he's very silent inside this game, which in turn kind of makes him feel bland, generic, and pretty forgettable whenever you actually play as him compared to the other characters. Which brings us to today's discussion about the guest characters inside of Crossworlds and how some of them not having any voice lines within the game is kind of bad, or at least in my opinion anyway. Now, before we actually delve further inside this topic, I will bring up the fact that I am already aware that Takashi Iizuka and Sega have already explained months ago as to why most of the third-party characters won't be having any voice lines inside the game, and that's because of copyright reasons. And at first, it is pretty understandable why this is the case, right? Because obviously they are collabing with a lot of very big IPs like Mega Man, Pac-Man, Spongebob freaking SquarePants, and also a ton, and I mean a ton, of different IPs from different franchises. And not only would they have to hire or reach out to both the English and Japanese voice actors that voice the respective guest characters in this game, they would have to do the same thing towards the other voice actors that voice the character in different languages that this game supports. Which is pretty costly, especially when you consider the fact that this is supposed to still be a basic collab for a kart racer. So I can understand why Sega wanted to leave some of the guest characters voiceless inside this game, especially characters like Pac-Man, Mega Man, and even the Minecraft characters, because they don't really talk that much inside their games, and even if they do talk a bit inside of their other media franchises, they were never characters that were popular because of their voices. So I can understand why this decision was made in the first place. However, when we were told this months ago, I was under the impression that this only applied to most of the third-party characters, as in the third-party non-Sega characters that are inside this game. It seems though that I was wrong, as it seems to be applying towards almost every single guest character that's inside this game. Even characters that Sega owns and even has the rights towards, and even characters that are from the Sonic IP. Furthermore, if we reread that message carefully, it says that they aren't going to be adding any voice dialogues. Keyword, dialogue. So I thought that meant that we're not going to really just be seeing any of the Sonic characters interact with any of the third-party characters, right? They're just not going to have any rival interactions with them or any full-on conversations with them like they do with themselves inside the game. But apparently that means that they're just not going to talk period at all inside the game, let alone have any grunts or any small voice sound effects whenever you select them inside the game or when you win a race. And I can only just question why this decision in particular was kind of made for the game. As far as I'm concerned, Miku and Joker are the only guest/DLC characters that have voice lines inside this game, while everyone else, they're just freaking silent as hell. If we're talking about the Werehog, he practically has no voice inside this game, let alone any unique voice lines that he had inside of Sonic Unleashed implemented inside this game. If we're talking about the Prime characters, Nine and Rusty Rose don't even have voices inside this game, and while I am aware that Sega does not technically have the full rights towards the entire Sonic Prime cast, they could have at least reached out to the voice actors to see if they wanted to have their voices implemented inside this game. But if that's too hard for them, I also don't see a reason why they can't just have the video game voice actors in the Sonic series voice their Prime counterparts inside this game. I would much rather have that than just have all the Prime characters be very dead silent and have all of the Sonic cast basically treat the Prime characters as if they do not exist inside the race. And don't even get me started on Ichiban. Oh man. A lot of people kind of thought that he was going to have at least some type of voice inside the game, but nope, he's also dead silent too. And this pretty much kind of has me a little bit worried for the future Sega/Sonic characters that they add inside this game, because what are the chances that Sega just adds them in and they're completely voiceless? Like, let's say for example, Sega randomly one day decides to add in Infinite from Sonic Forces inside this game, but he has no voice lines whatsoever, no rival interactions, no unique quotes and dialogue on the stages he's driving on, and no dialogue between some of the characters inside the race. He's just completely silent like the other characters. Wouldn't that kind of irk some people, knowing that a character who's not only one of the most important Sonic characters in the franchise, and also one of the main villains from Forces, not be able to say a single thing inside this game, let alone have a unique interaction with the characters he's been facing against in that game? Like, that's kind of what has me worried. Them pretty much doing that if they decide to add any more actual Sonic characters that are inside the video game universe inside this game, and them not being able to speak. Like, it's bad enough that they already did this with the Werehog and the Prime characters inside this game. It's definitely going to be a whole world war if they actually do this with any of the in-game universe Sonic characters that they add inside this game that have voice actors. Now obviously, a lot of people are not going to really see this as a huge problem inside of Crossworlds currently, because of course we're all still having fun with the game right now. On top of the fact that a lot of people are, at the end of the day, still grateful that Sega is handing out their IP characters and Sonic characters for free inside this game when they do events for them. But keep in mind that Sega did lock the Werehog behind a pre-order bonus and already locked the Sonic Prime characters behind the Season Pass, which cost $20 to $30 in order to get. And remind you, those characters are all voiceless and do cost money in order to get. So it isn't impossible to see that they could, at any time in the future, just lock more of these Sonic and Sega characters behind a paywall and expect people to buy characters that have no voice lines inside this game. Now again, this is only speculation, so I don't know 100% if this is going to happen, but it is a possibility. Again, I do think that this is kind of a problem in regards to the Sonic and Sega characters, because a lot of people are obviously going to be playing those characters because they're their favorite characters, and inside of a kart racer no less, they do want to pick their favorite characters because they want to hear them speak inside the race. It makes the game feel more lively, more fun. It gives them a lot more personality. It makes your character feel more lively. And again, while that probably may not feel too weird for third-party characters to just not be able to speak, it definitely does feel a little weird, definitely, for Sonic characters to not be able to speak to one another. It just doesn't make too much sense in my opinion. And obviously, whenever a character doesn't really have a voice line like the other characters inside the game, then people will tend to not pick that character that often, and that's just what I don't really want to see happening a lot inside of Crossworlds, just new characters dropping in, specifically Sonic and Sega characters, and then people just stop picking them because they can't speak. It kind of just makes you question at that point if it was worth the weight of Sega adding them inside the game in the first place, just for them to feel like they don't exist in the game anyway. But anyway, that's pretty much just my whole thoughts on this whole entire situation inside this game, guys. Even though the stuff that I said that's going to happen inside this video may not even happen in the first place, it is an issue that I still think people need to take caution towards inside this game, because even though they are handing out the Sega and Sonic characters for free right now, who's to say that they will try and lock them behind paywalls again in the future and keep the characters very voiceless? I just thought it was a very weird decision in my opinion. But anyway, feel free to share down below in the comments your opinion on this whole situation, if you agree with what I said in this video or disagree, and most importantly, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content so far. But anyway, this is Mr. Boomer reminding you all to stay fresh. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your day.